There's a word in Hebrew called muhus. Not called muhus, there's a word muhus, which is a little bit, it can be a little bit difficult to translate. People will translate it as essence, deepest essence, etc. The truth is that the best translation of the word to illustrate what it actually means, because it's kind of difficult, is the most literal translation. The word muhus, if you split it in half, the first two letters are mem, hey, ma, means what. Muhus is the mahus, it's the whatness. What is it? Not how does it behave, how does it look, how does it sound, how is it perceived, what is it? The muhus of a person is what is the person, who is the person deep down inside. We're not talking about the layers, we're not talking about personality, we're not talking about characteristics, we're not talking about behavior, we're talking about who/what the person is, the muhus, the mahus, the whatness. And the same is true of Hashem. There are layers and levels of divinity, whatever that means is another whole can of worms. But on Yom Kippur, that place within Hashem and that place within us that are connected unconditionally, regardless of anything, are awakened. And when that happens, even though our behavior might even be unforgivable, when that part of us and that part of Hashem are awakened, and that literally unconditional connection and love between us is awakened, all those things, even though they might be unforgivable, still get forgiven. Because that's what unconditional means. And the thing about Yom Kippur that's unique is that the nature of time on Yom Kippur, the nature of the time of Yom Kippur is that it awakens our muhus and Hashem's muhus, our whatness, what we are and what Hashem is. And at that level of operating in connection, nothing matters, as unforgivable as it is. Now, this is talking about it in terms of our relationship with Hashem. I want to talk now a little bit more about what that is just in terms of us and how the damage repair works. And this is what I was talking about before about the stem cell therapy. Right? So the idea of stem cell therapy, just very generally speaking, what stem cells, going back to the beginning, right? Every single one of us started out as one cell. One single cell. And that single cell that we started out as contained all the genetic material, all the DNA that was necessary to completely create us as complete people the way that we are. The way that we were when we were born, the way we are now as adults. All the information was there in that one cell, and then that cell split into 2 and 4 and 8 and 16 and 32 and continued to split and grow. And at first we have a bunch of identical cells, and then each of the cells starts to differentiate. And some of the genetic material, if there's genetic material that's not necessary for a skin cell, in the cells that become skin cells, that genetic material gets it's still there, but it gets switched off and deactivated because it's not necessary for a skin cell. And different functions get switched off. And as some things get switched off and some things get switched on, the cell takes on a specific characteristic. So a skin cell doesn't look the same as a blood cell, even though they both have all the same DNA inside and the same genetic material, because some of the DNA is activated, some of it's deactivated, and the result is different looking cells. They all start out the same, and they get differentiated. And within blood, there are red blood cells and white blood cells, there's B cells and T cells, etc., and muscle cells and nerve cells. All of these cells started out as a stem cell originally, if we go far back. All of them have the same DNA. And what happens is, as some gets activated, some gets deactivated, they turn into very different cells. And those activations and deactivations can be permanent. And then what happens when a cell, let's say a cell gets damaged, part of the body gets damaged, God forbid, the body has tremendous ability to repair itself. Incredible. If we get to know, the more we get to know about it, the more incredible it becomes. But there are also limits. There are limits to what cells are able to do and the repair that they're able to do. But the cells that we all started out from originally, that original cell, right, stem cells, they haven't had anything turned on or off yet. Everything is there, all the information's available, which means if all the information's available, those are the cells that we were made out of, which means those cells can become anything and can do anything, and they can grow into anything. Because every part of us comes from those same cells, that same original cell that we started out from. Which means that if we can figure out a way to get those original cells that have the potential to become anything and to grow into anything and to do any function of the body, as long as they're, controlled the right way, and if we can figure out how to take those and manipulate them and control them, we will be able to repair kinds of damage that the body isn't able to repair on its own. If there are kinds of cells that can't repair themselves, well, if we can start out with the kind of cells that every part of the body came from, and they have the ability to become any part of the body, then they will be able to repair or fix or fill in any gap anywhere in the body. Even if there are cells in the body that aren't able to repair themselves or regenerate, the stem cells can, because that's where these cells came from. Those are able to turn into any kind of cell.